shelter in God's during life storms. Well, I'm not a prophet and I'm not the daughter of a prophet, but I do have a prophet's name. I cannot tell you what God is going to do with this time of sheltering, but I can tell you what God has done during after times of sheltering in the past. And once you review the truth of history, as I describe it below, I think you'll know what He's going to do with His time too. God sheltered Noah and his family for 1 year in the ark until Noah emerged to become the father of all the nations of the world. God sheltered Jacob in the home of his uncle Laban when Jacob needed to escape the wrath of Esau, his brother. And 20 years later, Jacob emerged to a new family, new wealth, and new identity. He became Israel, the new name for God's chosen people. God sheltered Joseph from his 17th year to his 30th. But his slavery and prison became his school, where God prepared him for greatness. God sheltered Moses in a remote desert for 40 years, but Moses came forth to liberate Jewish people from Egypt. God sheltered Naomi in the barren land until she nearly became bitter, but she and her daughter-in-law Ruth traveled to Bethlehem to participate in one of the greatest love stories in their history. God sheltered David for 15 years after he had been anointed king of Israel. And when David finally assumed the throne, he was a man after God's own heart, and he gave us many of the Psalms. God sheltered Elijah by the brook of Cherith, and after the sheltering, he stood alone against the prophet of Baal on Mount Carmel. God sheltered Jonah for 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of a whale. And when sheltering is over, Jonah went to Nineveh and preached history's greatest revival. God sheltered Daniel for 70 years in Babylon, where he wrote his Old Testament book bearing his name, outlining the future of God's dealings with his people. God sheltered Esther while in the palace of Persian king, and she saved her people from destruction. God sheltered the disciples in the upper room for 10 days until the Holy Spirit descended in a dramatic fashion to form and fashion the church. God sheltered Paul in the Arabian desert for 3 years, and when he came back, he turned the world upside down. God later sheltered Paul in a Roman prison. By the time the apostles was free, he had written the prison's epistles: Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, and Philemon. God sheltered the Apostle John in the Isles of Patmos, and the book of Revelation, the greatest prophetic document of all times, was given to us. Lastly and most incredibly, God sheltered Jesus in the tomb for 3 days, and on the 3rd day Jesus came forth in power to bring salvation to the whole world. So now, I don't know all the details about what God is going to do, but what I do know is what He has done, and that is what we can count on. The God who sheltered His people in biblical ways won't stop now. So, come what may, I'm trusting in the sheltering God to be my refuge, and so can you. Isaiah 25, verse 4. God bless you.